They said the world's coral reefs were on the brink of disappearing forever, fated to become tombstones of vibrant life, turned gray in a matter of decades. But is that really the final chapter in this underwater epic? Today we are diving headfirst into the heart of a stunning discovery that challenges our assumptions. In this journey, we will unravel whether coral and rocky reefs have one final, triumphant stand to make, or if they are truly destined for oblivion. We will explore how their enchanting appeal, shaped by brilliant fish species and complex biodiversity, might just be a secret weapon against ecological decline. Get ready, because our search for answers will uncover surprising insights from an international team of marine experts and reveal powerful reasons why we cannot afford to look away. In this story, we will delve into groundbreaking research conducted in partnership with the University of Hawaii at Manoa, highlight the role of marine protected areas across the globe, and discover how the concept of a coral reef's beauty can revolutionize the way we value ecosystems. Throughout this episode, we will answer major questions. Why does beauty matter for conservation? How are marine sanctuaries amplifying that beauty? And what does this mean for the economies of tropical coastal nations who rely on the ocean's bounty to survive? Stay tuned until the very end, because we will reveal the remarkable fact about the lesser-known link between the shape and color of reef fish and their power over human emotions, and how local communities in developing regions could harness this power to preserve their livelihoods. We will also explore how you can make a difference, perhaps with a simple decision during your next vacation or by sharing this story with friends. Let us begin this fascinating odyssey. Imagine you submerge into warm, crystalline waters off a tropical island. The sun filters through the waves, revealing an explosion of color, fish with neon stripes, corals in shades of lavender and gold, and an entire tapestry of swirling life that seems to pulse with its own heartbeat. For decades, tourists and nature lovers alike have described these reefs as enchanting. But until recently, few scientists bothered to investigate what exactly makes these underwater worlds so aesthetically entrancing to us. That is, which qualities of coral reefs spark our wonder, and how does that wonder translate into an emotional call to protect these places? Enter an eye-opening study published in June 2025 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Led by researchers based at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and the Université de Montpellier, and featuring an oceanography graduate student from the University of Hawaii at Manoa named Aaron Judah, this study set out to ask, what makes a reef visually compelling in the eyes of the public? For ages, marine conservation research focused on population numbers, water quality, and biodiversity indexes. While those indicators remain vital, this international team decided it was time to put human perception under the microscope. They scoured enormous data sets from a worldwide reef monitoring program and then organized surveys for everyday individuals to rate the beauty of different fish communities. Why does this matter? According to the study's authors, the emotional resonance of a place can be the deciding factor in whether it receives adequate protection. Because reef ecosystems serve as the foundation for food, tourism, coastal protection, and spiritual well-being for countless human settlements, understanding how beauty influences public support can provide conservationists and policymakers with an entirely new strategy. If people fall in love with the kaleidoscopic brilliance of a reef, they may be more inclined to fight for marine regulations, reduce their own waste, and embrace eco-friendly tourism practices. From an economic point of view, coral reefs fuel entire industries by attracting divers, snorkelers, and photographers who are enthralled by their shimmering inhabitants. That is the intangible power of beauty. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the secret ingredients that make coral reefs so captivating, feel free to show your support in whatever way feels right. Your curiosity and engagement can help keep this conversation going. It is amazing how small actions, like telling a friend about what you found compelling here, can spark bigger momentum for reef conservation. Now, let us continue by examining the findings of this ambitious study. The key takeaway might surprise you. The visual allure of a reef is strongly correlated with the diversity of species, plus the presence of especially colorful or uniquely shaped fish. In other words, a reef teeming with a vast variety of life, from bizarre frogfish to flashing parrotfish, is seen as more appealing than a reef inhabited by a less diverse assembly of marine creatures. That might sound intuitive, But measuring aesthetic appeal on such a global scale, looking at 3,500 groups of reef fish, has never been done before in such a systematic way. Even more fascinating is that marine protected areas, often shortened to MPAs, have an amplifying effect on beauty. These protected zones, which are often enforced to reduce fishing or restrict destructive practices like bottom trawling, allow fish populations to rejuvenate and thrive. And when fish populations brim with a variety of shapes, sizes, colors, and behaviors, the reef's aesthetic factor soars. The study found that these benefits show up with particular clarity in tropical regions. They are not limited by a nation's wealth. So, whether you have a bustling tourist hotspot in a high-income nation or a small coastal village in a developing country, the principle remains. If you protect a reef, you amplify its beauty and, by extension, strengthen local economies and preserve cultural heritage. It is easy to think of beauty as a purely subjective notion, but here, the concept has been given careful statistical treatment. The researchers recognize that local communities might measure beauty in ways that differ from the general public, but the diverse international backgrounds of the survey participants revealed a common thread. Vibrancy matters. The interplay of shape and color stirs excitement, sparks curiosity, and fosters a sense of wonder. That, in turn, can translate into real-world impacts, such as local tourism growth, job creation, and broader conservation funding. While we often assume that coral reef preservation is a high-stakes affair only for large global nonprofits or specialized science agencies, the reality is that the emotional pull from a vividly hued reef might be its greatest hope. When everyday people step off a boat into the midst of coral gardens bursting with life, an unspoken bond forms. They may feel sympathy when they learn about how overfishing, pollution, and climate change threaten these places. They might even decide to become reef ambassadors, advocating at home for plastic reduction, choosing sustainable seafood selections, or voting for local representatives who push for smarter coastal management. The momentum can start with a single moment of awe, but the compelling insight does not end there. The study also indicates that focusing on the aesthetic aspect can help shape policy decisions that strengthen biodiversity. Consider a region where marine managers decide which reef areas should receive formal legal protection first. Should they choose the reef brimming with biodiversity and high aesthetic value? Possibly yes, because that is where local communities and tourists alike are most likely to notice changes and respond. If fish with extravagant patterns or peculiar shapes start to vanish, people will feel that something precious is slipping away, and they might be more motivated to intervene. In many ways, this new approach to valuing reef beauty builds on previous economic studies that attempted to calculate how much a tourist might spend on snorkel tours or how many local families rely on the ocean for subsistence fishing. But the difference here is that we are no longer just talking about so many tons of fish or a certain fraction of gross domestic product. Instead, the conversation has turned to feelings, experiences, and the intangible magnetism that keeps so many travelers returning to the sea. The intangible is becoming a factor in the tangible world of policy, regulation, and fiscal decisions. Now, imagine the powerful synergy between that intangible magnetism and a robust marine protected area. Once that boundary is drawn, once fishing pressures are eased within that zone, fish get the chance to reproduce more effectively. Corals can grow without being kicked up or smothered by bottom sediments from destructive techniques. Tourists flock to these havens, marveling at the effervescent schools of reef fish shining in the sunlight. A local economy blooms, perhaps with new guest houses or eco-lodges run by villagers who now find themselves part of a conservation success story. The entire chain of events arises partly from that initial recognition. This reef is so stunning, so spectacular, that we must protect it. But of course, the story also includes potential pitfalls. Although these findings are encouraging, the study's authors caution that fewer than 7% of reefs currently have strong protection. The rest remain at the mercy of overexploitation, pollution, and warming ocean temperatures. Time might be running out. Reefs worldwide face coral bleaching events with frightening regularity. This phenomenon leaves once flourishing coral colonies white and skeletal, more susceptible to disease. Overfishing, destructive anchoring, sediment runoff from land-based agriculture, and even tourism negligence, like careless snorkelers who trample corals, all take their toll. The question is this: Will we only appreciate these ecosystems once their palette of color has faded beyond repair, or will we take swift action? It might feel daunting, but the researchers offer a glimmer of hope. Their data underscores that aesthetic appeal can be a potent motivator. When a reef is undeniably captivating, more individuals, including people without scientific expertise, are willing to rally behind it. This is crucial for reef-dependent regions, many of which are in what some economists call the global south. Here, local communities might rely on reef ecosystems for their fishing livelihoods, while international tourists come in search of the ultimate diving experience. If they lose that draw, if fish species vanish, if corals die off, it is not just a blow to nature, it is a blow to cultural traditions, to families who run small businesses, to entire ways of life. Perhaps the heart of this discovery is recognizing that beauty is not an optional extra. It is a core element of how we connect to the natural world. Thousands of years ago, people carved shells, fish images, and swirling wave patterns into their art, symbolizing the ocean's magic. Today we see that magic under threat, yet also harnessed in new ways through tourism marketing, eco-labeling, and conservation campaigns. By weaving beauty into the narrative, we present a more compelling reason for governments and international bodies to safeguard these ecosystems. We have arrived at a turning point in this story, and I invite you to hit a small but meaningful action that can help us sustain the momentum for this conversation. If you are enjoying this deep exploration of reef wonders and the urgency behind their protection, consider sharing these insights with someone who might not realize the complexity of threats facing coral ecosystems. Transforming curiosity into collective awareness is one path toward preservation. Let us continue by returning to the figures behind this research. The lead team included Matthew McLean, a professor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and Nicolas Mouquet at the Université de Montpellier. Together with other experts and local collaborators, they mapped the perceived beauty of those 3,500 fish groups worldwide. Meanwhile, from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, graduate student Aaron Judah brought a perspective grounded in the local environment of Hawaii, a place that knows all too well the precarious balance facing coral reefs. Their synergy is part of a broader wave of marine science that no longer focuses solely on patchy reefs, but sees the bigger picture, how people, fish, corals, and economies interlock. This sweeping view also underscores the importance of marine protected areas for people who may not directly see the link between a fish's vibrant color patterns and their dinner table. Yet that link is real. Healthier reefs tend to produce more stable fish populations. These fish provide protein to local communities, support tourism ventures, and keep the intricate food web of the reef intact. At the same time, visitors, both domestic and international, are drawn to a place where these spectacular creatures can be witnessed in all their glory. Hence, the coral reef becomes not just a scenic background, but a pillar of ecological and economic stability. In many tropical nations, tourism ranks among the top economic engines. Hotels, tour agencies, souvenir shops, restaurants, transportation services, they all, in one way or another, rest upon the promise of a mesmerizing seascape. When that seascape sparkles, when it bursts with the flamboyant neon stripes of reef fish and the labyrinthine structures of living corals, travelers are spellbound. They leave with photos, stories, and a lingering feeling that they experience something too beautiful for words. When that sense of wonder washes over them, they often return, bringing friends or family the next time. The tourism cycle continues, bringing revenue that can be invested back into local infrastructure and further conservation. However, researchers note that for this cycle to remain sustainable, local stewardship is critical. Marine protected areas only function well if they are upheld by the community and enforced by local authorities. This might require daily vigilance, patrolling for illegal fishers, ensuring anchor lines are not dropped on corals, and training guides to educate visitors about responsible marine etiquette. Such measures cost money, and they also require participation by local residents and business owners, but the payoff is substantial. Over time, the ecosystem stabilizes. Tourists spread the word about exceptional underwater marvels. Fisheries near the borders of these protected areas may even see spillover benefits as fish populations expand beyond the no-take zones. So, how do we keep building on this beauty effect? For one thing, policymakers can incorporate aesthetic criteria when designating new protected areas or managing existing ones. Is there a spot known for vibrant anthias fish swirling around branching corals? That site could become a prime candidate for additional safeguards. Meanwhile, local entrepreneurs can align with conservation groups to promote tours that emphasize not just seeing fish, but learning about their ecological importance and the precarious reality of climate change. When curiosity shifts to empathy, tourists become allies who respect reef etiquette, refrain from stepping on corals, and reduce single-use plastics. This synergy becomes even more critical as climate challenges intensify. Ocean temperatures have been rising, leading to corals expelling the tiny algae that color them, causing bleaching events. Without consistent regulation of greenhouse gas emissions and mindful coastal development, bleaching could become a dire prophecy for many reefs. After bleaching, the corals may still recover, provided water temperatures return to normal levels relatively quickly, but repeated or prolonged stress can be lethal. The tapestry of colors fades, fish populations dwindle, and local economies suffer. The emotional resonance that once dazzled visitors simply disappears. From a cultural standpoint, the reef's beauty often ties into traditions and spiritual values as well. Coastal communities in places like Polynesia, the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, and other island cultures have viewed reefs as the cradle of their ancestors, real or mythic. To visualize a reef not just as a biological entity, but also as a cultural tapestry helps us appreciate why the push to conserve them must come from multiple angles. It is about preserving a sense of identity as much as protecting fish species from extinction. Let us pause and reflect on the extraordinary possibility that emerges when we combine robust science, local stewardship, and global appreciation for the mesmerizing spectacle of reef fish. If we manage to protect a sufficiently large fraction of the world's reefs, well beyond that current fraction of less than 7%, then the transformation in biodiversity could be staggering. It could also set off a chain reaction of hope, encouraging other marine conservation efforts and even inspiring people to address issues like pollution and unsustainable resource use in their communities. This wave of optimism does not ignore the hardships. Coral reefs are at ground zero for many anthropogenic pressures. Indeed, entire stretches of reef have already vanished, turned into skeletal remnants by blasts of warmer water. Meanwhile, some communities struggle with immediate concerns about stable incomes and safe drinking water, so conversations about beauty might seem like a luxury. But one of the remarkable lessons from this study is that countries of varying income levels can experience the same surge in aesthetic value once a reef is effectively protected. That means a well-managed reef in a developing country could outshine some lesser-managed reef in a wealthier place. Through this lens, marine scientists have begun talking about equitable conservation, ensuring that local people benefit at least as much as outside tourists. If the reef's beauty is harnessed for ecotourism or scientific expeditions, a proportion of that revenue should boost community services, education, or alternative livelihoods. In that sense, the reef becomes a shared inheritance, something that fosters global unity around a small stretch of coastal waters. Yet, the impetus to protect reefs does not simply revolve around money. It involves imagination, imagining a future in which a child can grow up snorkeling in a sea full of life and color, forging memories that will guide that child to become a conservation champion in adulthood. It involves imagining a scenario where fishing families do not have to abandon their traditions because the resource base has collapsed. And it involves recognizing that, across the planet, people have a latent reverence for the grandeur of natural wonders like coral reefs. We might not all live on tropical coasts, but we are all inhabitants of the same Earth. Our emotional bond to the reefs can transcend geographic distance. Such emotional resonance might begin with, "Wow, look how beautiful this fish is," but it can end with tangible results, such as local industries thriving under sustainable frameworks, or governments codifying stricter measures to preserve water quality and reduce carbon emissions. The recent research demonstrates that beauty, often overlooked or deemed unquantifiable, might be the missing piece in the puzzle of marine conservation. It is a universal language that requires no translation, a mesmerizing combination of color and form that can unite people across cultural and linguistic divides. Whether you are a scientist, an island resident, a tourist, or simply someone enthralled by Earth's natural wonders, that feeling cannot be denied. We have seen how mesmerizing shapes and colors can captivate hearts, but we have also established that reefs are more than just spectacles. They are a lifeline, fueling economies, feeding families, and anchoring entire cultural heritages. By tapping into that mesmerizing effect, the global community can rally around a banner of pure awe. In a world brimming with digital noise and constant demands on our attention, that sense of awe is precious and might be exactly what we need to galvanize meaningful, lasting change. The question becomes, are we ready to act? Are we prepared to defend coral reefs not solely because scientists warn of disastrous collapse, but also because they are profoundly beautiful and inspire us in ways no spreadsheet or policy memo can capture? The path forward demands synergy between multiple threads: securing marine protected areas, investing in local stewardship, reducing carbon footprints, and fortifying the ties between cultural identity and environmental guardianship. Though the challenges loom large, the rewards for success are equally monumental. It is easy to become overwhelmed by dire headlines: greenhouse gases rising, bleaching events intensifying, fisheries under stress. Yet in the face of such adversity, coral reefs have shown remarkable resilience when given a fair chance. Think of the humble polyp building its limestone fortress, the swirling schools of fish returning after a no-take zone is established, or the joyous calls of divers who encounter a reef that seems plucked from a dreamscape. The resilience is there, waiting for us to nurture it. So, here we are, with a critical piece of knowledge. Beauty is not merely superficial or decorative. It is a potent force in the quest to preserve what remains of our planet's most vibrant marine ecosystems. And whether these ecosystems remain vibrant might soon rest on our collective willingness to see them, appreciate them, and stand up for them. That wraps up our deep investigation into what makes coral reefs so visually enthralling and why that enchantment can be the linchpin to saving them. If you found this exploration insightful, or if it has ignited your curiosity and sense of wonder, consider sharing it with your community. Sometimes that simple action, passing along a compelling insight, can spark the kind of collective awareness that grows into genuine change. Thank you for being part of this journey, and may the colors of our oceans continue to inspire and guide us toward a sustainable future.